What is actually lost when a child chooses a screen over a stuffed animal? When Pixar handed a tablet computer a speaking role in Toy Story 5, it dragged a nostalgic franchise into the modern playroom. In a review published on 19 June 2026, The Atlantic steps back from the usual panic over screen time to see what the film is actually doing. The piece holds up because it treats a children's movie as a serious debate over how kids connect, capturing how a story about talking dolls addresses internet addiction without turning technology into a flat villain. Written by David Sims in The Atlantic. Narrated for Arva. Toy Story confronts a nightmare of modern parenting. The Pixar franchise's latest installment makes an enemy out of screen time. Pixar's cruelest and cleverest trick has been successfully convincing audiences over several decades that all kinds of creatures, even inanimate objects, can have rich inner lives. In Cars, vehicles talk and run a whole society. In Finding Nemo, fish feel imprisoned when they're placed in a tank. Inside Out posits, through the use of anthropomorphized memories, that to be forgotten is a fate as bad as death. But no series ostensibly for children has worked harder to guilt-trip adults into taking better care of their pets or belongings than the Toy Story movies, in which the mere act of putting away playthings is tantamount to mass murder. Toy Story 5, the latest in a likely never-ending run of sequels to Pixar's first-ever feature film, finds a new and rich angle to the franchise, the notion of growing up too fast. In the world of Toy Story, practically every item beloved by children has a secret consciousness. Toys privately chat and organize in kids' bedrooms, always with the goal of helping their owners have fun. Toy Story 5, directed by the Pixar mainstay and animation legend Andrew Stanton, who also made Finding Nemo and WALL-E, introduces a character that should send a chill down the spine of every parent watching. A sentient tablet computer whose idea of encouraging elementary schoolers to interact is to get them addicted to mindless games and push them onto social networks. This is an innovative bit of horror for Toy Story, one that actually gets at the way children play today. That sense of modernity has sometimes felt absent from the movie's sweetly old-fashioned world, which features pull-string cowboy dolls and a shiny spaceman action figure. Lilypad, voiced by Greta Lee, is a cutesy piece of tech gifted to the series' human protagonist Bonnie, who is 8 years old and painfully shy. Ostensibly intended to bring her closer to more friends via the web, Lily instead zombifies Bonnie, a familiar syndrome that the other toys note is happening worldwide. Figurines and stuffies are gathering dust while youngsters tap away at screens. Accusing the film of tech hysteria would be easy, but I found myself impressed by how forcefully the script, by Stanton and Kenna Harris, charges at an issue that adults might actually want to talk to their children about as they leave the theater together. Toy Story 5 mostly avoids coming off as an angry plea that parents rip every screen out of their child's field of vision. It makes Lily an anti-hero rather than a full-on villain. She goes up against the cowgirl doll Jessie, Joan Cusack, and the trusty and brash Buzz Lightyear, Tim Allen, in a debate that turns almost philosophical. Lily's argument is that her internet connectivity and glamorous built-in apps make her a better bridge between kids. Of course, Toy Story 5 largely disagrees with that point. The simple joy of unlocking young imaginations has always been the character's purpose in these movies. Though they have inner lives that children cannot perceive, the toys are happiest when they're being used and adored. Stanton represents Bonnie's fantasy world as a bright dimension of pastel drawings and glitzy colors, whereas the Lilypad games are flat and uninspired. The real contrast, however, comes in the ways kids communicate with one another. Offline, they're supportive and creative, whereas when they're texting from afar, they can be detached and cruel. Perhaps wisely, given that the film's emotional center is a little girl, the primary storyline follows Jessie. She takes over for her cowboy counterpart, Woody, Tom Hanks, who was the franchise's longtime lead. He left the gang at the end of Toy Story 4, accepting that his time as the favorite had ended. Woody, now sporting a bald spot and a paunchy belly full of stuffing, is pretty quickly roped back into the action. Yet he's kept firmly in supporting role territory so that Jessie can have a proper story arc, something she hasn't really enjoyed since her introduction in Toy Story 2. The lessons she learns here, some of them revolving around the owner who grew up and abandoned her long ago, are familiar fare for the Toy Story verse. All childhood is fleeting, but there's plenty to enjoy without having to fear the future. Still, the formula has enough novelty to keep the sequel from feeling entirely stale. I still prefer Toy Story 4, a bizarre swerve that focused intently on the mechanics of toy consciousness by pondering the existence of Bonnie's DIY creation Forky, who was brought to life almost against his will to become a plaything. Nothing is quite as provocative in this installment, though I did appreciate a trio of supposed old tech toys Jessie meets, now reckoning with obsolescence in the back of their child's closet. The best of them is Smarty Pants, Conan O'Brien, a potty training tool who lives without purpose or fresh batteries, his duties long ago fulfilled. As ever, the Toy Story movies cannot help but jab at adults thinking with remorse about any trinket or device they might have discarded over the years. That's the weird magic of this franchise, more than 30 years on. Viewers might find themselves authentically rooting for a felt cowgirl and a fake toilet paper roll to teach a knockoff iPad some manners.